What's the word? Big W's. All right, I want to go over like a list of mascots um, because a lot of people they wear this apparel. They go to these games and they don't know what these logos mean. You know, they'll just glance at them and they won't necessarily know the hidden story behind them. So I just want to be very quick because there's a lot of commotion going on in the area. Let's start from New England. We have the Celtics. I think these are the Red Sox. These are the Patriots. You have here the Redskins. That logo is not used anymore, so I'm kind of surprised that I found it. We have here the Chicago Bears, the most infamous Bulls next to the St. Louis Rams. Kansas City Royals, Denver Nuggets. Okay, they have been in the news here lately. The Colorado Buffaloes. Got the Rockies. You got Cal, the Seahawks, the Mariners. All right. The Aggies. I love the Aggies. You got the Saints, the Seminoles. All right. You got the Pacers, the Razorbacks. All right. The Baylor. I think they'd call the Baylor Bears. I'm not sure. All right. So like you can look at these images here, these logos, these avatars. And this is unique history. All right, Atlanta Braves. So you got to ask yourself, who were the people walking around with pits in their nose holding these stone sticks, these tomahawks, jackrabbits? All right, a lot of this goes without saying. So that kind of segues to over here. Agenda Res 61295. General Assembly 2007. All right. And again, it's annexed to be guiding, to be affirming, and to also be affirming. All right. And, you know, I was just talking to someone about this. I think it was a Somali. And I was saying, because they were kind of caught up into this division about, you know, Americans not accepting them from being like over there and not from over here. And I just said, you know, in kind words, you know, if you go back to the old census, you have to ask yourself, out of all the towns in North America who had populations that were decreasing and that were increasing, because I look at my last name and I see that, you know, we were in New York and we were in Ohio and we were also in Illinois. All right, so if you go back to 1700, you got to ask yourself, were we in these places like Louisiana and Mississippi, or were we always in the North? So it's just common sense. Like, if the United States was always together, the Union, we had different migration patterns. So a century couldn't capture where we were and where we weren't, because we always migrated to these places back and forth. Whether that be during or after war or during or after weather patterns that maybe affected certain regions. Because we have towns in America that are basically wiped out, that needs to be rebuilt back up. But again, the things we left behind, they are still there. So I'm kind of curious as to why we don't see these organizations that are funded from these departments. What are they holding? What have they found, and what are they not showing the public? So I'm just going to read Article 22. Okay, we're going past 8. All right, so this is just give you a view of what you actually are to expect as far as rights that people have in their own lands, towns, and territories. All right, so 22, it has two clauses. Let's start with 2. States shall take measures in conjunction with peoples to ensure women and children enjoy full protection and guarantees against all forms of violence and discrimination. I always highlight 2 because that's a lucky number of mine. And now we have the first clause highlighting women, youth, children, and persons with disabilities. So again, in a previous video, I stated if you are a minority, you automatically classified as a person that is disabled because you are at a disadvantage educationally, financially, socially, and any other adverb you can think of that affects you, whether that be publicly or privately. You're at a disadvantage, so automatically you have rights that a disabled person has. So I just want to be very clear on that. Full protection. And here's a clause 2 that highlights spirituality, respects of morality, and social development, and to empower those who are vulnerable. So automatically they're talking about empowering people who are under the classification of transgender and woman. So a man can be a woman as well if he's someone who is constantly warring man, warring his brother, warring his children. A person who is identified as having a havoc of a time. So let's go back to the logos, all right? So if you look at migration patterns, when we came from Spain, we went back to Florida and we made our way up past South Carolina into New England. Then we went back down to South Carolina over into Illinois. And the land till this day is still undeveloped when you talk about Nevada, Montana, North Dakota, South Dakota, Oregon. These lands are still undeveloped. So if you look at the East particularly, it's very developed as it concerns the West and the Southwestern regions, especially the Southwestern regions. If you look at Oregon, it's not a lot of us there. We left there and didn't go back for some reason. All right. And I don't think they have the Sox logo on here. All right, they don't. But they do have St. Louis. And if you look at St. Louis and Sox, St. Louis Cardinals, this kind of goes with the culture in Chicago as far as the handshaking, the fonts being intertwined. That's exactly the Cardinals logo. That's exactly the Kansas City Chief logo. That's exactly the Minnesota Twins logo. That's exactly the Sox logo. The culture in Chicago is more so about hunting and gathering. So you can see that culture throughout these regions through the logos. So pay much attention to that. This history. You got to pay attention to the italic as well when a letter is leaning. What was that culture more so about? All right. So the logos, as they come and go, they'll always be around. They'll be reinvented. This logo right here was probably around in BCX. You just never know. So just be very mindful of that. All right. And they did away with the redskin for some particular reason. But on that note, I'm going to head out and y'all stay swell.